Hey, I am Dacie Meng. I am responsible for policy in North America for the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and I am so glad to be joining you all virtually today. I wish I could be there in person, but unfortunately I needed to be in New York during the UN General Assembly week for some events and meetings related to the Global Plastics Treaty. And when I wish I could be in two places at once, it's always kind of an exciting time because that means there's just so much happening, so much good stuff happening. And right now, the energy around circularity and EPR and plastics feels like it's at an all-time high. And that's wonderful for me and my colleagues at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation who are really working on a variety of these issues. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation is a charity that has the mission of accelerating the transition to the circular economy, which is not a small mission, but I think it's really an exciting one. And kind of before we get into some of the more details around a circular economy, I want to just step back and think with you about what a true circular economy would look like, what it would look like if we were able to eliminate waste and pollution, recirculate products and materials in the economy at their highest value, and regenerate nature. And for me, that leads to a world, a planet, an economy that's better off, human health is better off, we're in an overall better position than we are today under our current economic model. And that's what excites me about working on a circular economy. So I know that that's a big task, and I know that it's not kind of a small change to get us from our current economic system to a circular economy, but I think it's a huge opportunity and one that we all can help make the move towards. We can help with the transition, although it will require kind of contributions from everyone across public and private sector around the world in each country doing all sorts of things, innovating and developing new technologies and new policies and new policy approaches. So lots of work to be done for everyone in this room and outside of the room, but really an exciting opportunity. Today, I'm hoping to talk to you about what the circular economy is, how EPR fits into it, and then kind of what we can be doing building on the existing EPR programs and systems in place to do more with EPR and other policy approaches to really get us closer to a circular economy. I'll start by just kind of laying some of the groundwork and making sure that we're all on the same page. I know that a lot of these concepts and terms will be familiar to folks in the room, but it's important for all of us to be speaking from the same vocabulary. So starting off, we can talk about what a linear economy is as kind of the counterpoint to what a circular economy is. A linear economy is our classic take, make, waste economy. We're thinking about taking resources and materials out of the environment, out of the ground, using those to make new products. And those products are used typically for a brief amount of time before being wasted and disposed of. The linear economy has been the norm since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, and with good reason. It's enabled us to make products more inexpensively and more quickly than we ever were able to before. It's resulted in amazing new innovation, and it's enabled millions of people to access products that they perhaps otherwise wouldn't have had access to. But it's becoming apparent that the linear economy is no longer fit for purpose. The linear economy has countless problems and pitfalls that we see on a daily basis. Things like unnecessary waste and pollution, price risks and supply chain volatility, underutilized assets and economic losses, as well as the environmental and social harms like climate change and biodiversity loss that the linear economy contributes to. The circular economy can help us to kind of address those problems and begin to resolve the issues that we see with the linear economy. The circular economy is based on three principles driven by design. The first principle is eliminating waste and pollution. The second is circulating products and materials. And the third is regenerating nature. When we think about eliminating waste and pollution, what we're really thinking about is eliminating the negative outcomes associated with our economic activity. Things like greenhouse gases or exposure to hazardous and toxic chemicals and substances that are in products that we use. And if you kind of step back and think about it, waste and pollution is necessarily a consequence of decisions made at the design stage. And so if we can think of waste as a design flaw in a product or a good, then we can really start to see that this isn't a waste management problem so much as a full life cycle problem. We need to think about design throughout the life cycle of a product to get it to a place where we're able to eliminate waste and pollution intentionally. The second principle of a circular economy is circulating products and materials in the economy. So we're thinking about favoring activities that keep the most embedded energy, labor, materials in a product for as long as possible. Thinking about keeping products and materials in circulation through activities like reuse, repair, designing for durability, or extending other activities that will extend the life cycle of a product so that we're not unnecessarily wasting the resources that have gone into making that product. And the third principle is regenerating natural systems. And so with that, we're thinking about things like agricultural practices that don't just avoid degrading the land, but actually are able to improve soil quality or soil health and improve the environment in which they're operating. So those three principles are kind of what the circular economy is based on. And hopefully it's apparent from what I've said, but I will make it explicit. The circular economy is so much more than just a recycling strategy or even a waste management strategy. While there is certainly a place for recycling in the circular economy, we need to be thinking more broadly about other activities that will help us to kind of achieve those three principles. And there, like I said, there's a place for recycling. There's also a place for EPR in the circular economy, partly in the same vein as recycling, but also we should challenge ourselves to think about what else we can be doing with EPR so that it's not just a tool for improving recycling rates or collection rates or kind of whatever metric it is that you're working towards. And EPR is really a key to the solution. I don't want to undermine that. I think EMF has worked closely with countless stakeholders to articulate the importance of EPR and the transition to a circular economy, and to also outline industry support for EPR as an important policy tool. At the bottom line, kind of fee-based mandatory EPR systems are the only proven and likely way to get the dedicated, ongoing, and sufficient funding necessary for the kind of collection, sorting, recycling, etc. of products like packaging at scale. And so we need EPR. We need EPR to achieve that. And in order to do that, we need EPR to have certain components or elements included. EMF has published a little bit on this, and certainly there are some key things like well-defined product scope, including for packaging, for instance, both packaging categories as well as material types, clearly defined roles for all stakeholders involved, time-bound and ambitious targets and objectives to be achieved, and also really transparent and robust monitoring, reporting, and enforcement mechanisms. I mean, those are some fundamental ideas. I know a lot of you in the room have spent a lot of time working on how to optimize EPR programs, how to design EPR programs so that they're most effective. And that is certainly knowledge that we appreciate. We encourage you to keep doing that. And it's really exciting to have access to that information as we grapple with hard questions like the challenge of balancing local context with the need for harmonization. So thinking about what is happening in the local context. What does the local waste management system look like? What does the local circular economy policy, if there is one, look like? How to kind of fit an EPR program into the local context, but balance it with the need for harmonization. It is so important that businesses are able to comply and there's predictability around EPR programs, especially when we're thinking about kind of the fundamental systems change that we need to see to achieve a circular economy. Like we've said before, a circular economy kind of requires reimagining how we use, produce, and consume products. And we can't be asking businesses to really do that fundamental reworking of the current system without some reliable and predictable opportunities and kind of compliance mandates across the board. So, like I said, EPR is certainly part of the solution, and we are excited to learn from you all and build on what you all are doing so that we can kind of keep doing more, keep taking advantage of EPR as a powerful policy tool to get us closer to a circular economy. There are a few things that are kind of obvious ways to build on existing EPR programs. The first is just expanding those programs to other jurisdictions, thinking about other cities, provincial and national level governments that are considering EPR, and allowing them to kind of access the information and the lessons learned across the board is huge, especially in light of the UN treaty that's being negotiated, and thinking about how new countries may be considering EPR as an opportunity to reduce plastic pollution. We can also think about expanding EPR to kind of outside the traditional scope of products that are covered by EPR programs. There are so many materials and products that present challenges for end-of-life management and opportunities for keeping valuable materials in the economy and mitigating supply chain risks, for example. So if we can just think about EPR as an opportunity to ensure that resources remain in the economy, that will allow us to maybe think more openly about what other products should be or could be subject to EPR programs, or could benefit from EPR programs. And we can think about EPR either as a way to keep materials in the economy through recycling, or through upstream design changes that can be incentivized through EPR, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And kind of on that note, we can think about EPR doing more and kind of building on existing EPR programs by thinking about complementary policy approaches that may be useful, including the best opportunities to incentivize upstream design changes, allowing us to look at the systems changes that we need to see rather than simply focusing on end-of-life management. Of course, there are challenges to kind of doing more, and I understand all of this is happening in a political context and with lots of nuance at every level. But we should also challenge ourselves to really think outside of the traditional boundaries of what EPR is and what EPR should be, to be sure that we're taking advantage of its full potential. So EPR needs to be, from my perspective at least, part of a more comprehensive circular economy policy approach or policy strategy. We need these approaches to include various complementary tools that can either fit into the EPR program or kind of alongside it as a parallel policy. And what I'm thinking about is when we talk about complementary policies that may fit into an EPR program, we can think about things like eco-modulation, so updating the fee structure to incentivize those upstream design changes that we want to see or other behavior changes. We can think about maybe a deposit return scheme fitting within an EPR program for a subset of the covered materials. And then when we're thinking about parallel policies, we may be thinking about recycled content mandates that kind of drive demand for recycled content, while the EPR program is complementary in driving some supply around recycled content. EMF has published its Universal Circular Economy policy goals that can be used to develop policy approaches that I'm talking about that are comprehensive and kind of get us closer to a circular economy. The Universal Policy Goals, or UPGs as we call them, recognize the relevant approaches and policies are interconnected and can help avoid the creation of kind of a patchwork of fragmented solutions that don't all complement each other. Here are the 5 Universal Policy Goals laid out. First, stimulating design for the economy. Things like policies to standardize and harmonize design, packaging, and systems, policies that would ban the most problematic packaging or other materials, mandatory recycled content minimums, like I mentioned earlier, would all kind of fit into the first UPG of stimulating design for the economy. The second UPG is managing resources to preserve value. With this, we're thinking about mandatory collection, deposit return schemes, like I mentioned, and also international restrictions on the import and export of waste. The third UPG is making the economics work. For example, through procurement and tax incentives, other financial incentives, or disincentives like landfill bans or even landfill taxes, kind of driving the economics behind what we need to see. The fourth UPG is investing in innovation, infrastructure, and skills. With this, we may be thinking about activities like developing procurement guidelines or establishing a blended finance mechanism to mobilize private capital, developing research funds, incorporating circular economy into public education curriculum, all sorts of things. And then the fifth UPG is collaborating for system change. And with this, I like to really focus on kind of the need and the opportunity to work across the public and the private sector to do whatever it is that we need to do. So to develop roadmaps, to establish reuse systems, to expand or improve existing recycling infrastructure, all of that can benefit from private-public collaboration and coordination. The UPGs are just one way to kind of frame this, but it's helpful to me, and it's important for us to really be thinking about how all of it fits together. So as I think about it, EPR certainly fits within the broader need for a comprehensive circular economy policy or approach or strategy. But kind of beyond looking at policy, we still really do need that investment in innovation and commitment from the private sector through voluntary initiatives to help get us to a transition to a circular economy. And it's so easy to be looking for the breakthrough that will get us to where we need to be faster, the innovation that will solve all of our problems, or the policy tool that will be the key to kind of changing behavior. And the reality is that's just not how it works. We need a portfolio of solutions that will be complementary, mutually reinforcing, and well coordinated to kind of come together and build the momentum that we need across governments, industry, and the public to get us to a circular economy. Anyhow, I will kind of slow down here. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I look forward to talking with you and hearing how the conference goes, because I am sure that there will be some fascinating and wonderful conversations and opportunities identified here. And I would love to learn more about what you're thinking as far as how we can build on the existing EPR programs to kind of get us closer to a more circular economy, whether that is doing more with what we have, adding in complementary policies, or something else. So I will sign off here, but thank you so much.